Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, everybody. This is a special hangout session that we're having with Matt. Matt, please, is it Binder or Binder? I'm sorry.
It's Binder.
Binder. I knew that. I should have known that. Matt Binder has agreed to debate us because
It's all good.
he saw the International Conference on Men's Rights. He thought a lot of it was stupid. He accepted a debate challenge with Paul. They've agreed. Honor binds all participants. No interrupting each other. They each get to go 4 minutes each. For there'll be a 4 minute introduction, then 4 minute rebuttal. They get 4 minutes each. We'll do that a couple times. We will end with 2 minutes closing statements. During the whole thing, if somebody's getting near the end of their time, they can say, I need another 30 seconds because I just didn't, cough it out. And just honor otherwise binds all participants not to be douchebags. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoops, wherever you are, everybody. Where's that coming from? Hangout session that's having goddamn me again.
That's called an Esmay.
I have a quick question. As you were reading through the rules, it just occurred to me. If someone's talking and we just need to ask for a clarification in the to stay true to the debate format of being able to correctly go against what the other person's saying to debate it, Paul or I would need the correct facts. So if one of us needs a clarification, are we allowed to just ask for a clarification?
I would say that the way to handle that is that since we have these short blocks of times of 4 minutes each, when your time comes, you can certainly point out something that wasn't clear to you and ask for a clarification in the next section. I just don't see a need to interrupt each other for clarification. I've tried to make my statements as clear as possible, and I'm sure you will too.
All right. May I ask you to another thing just occurred to me, being that you just said that. May I ask you to answer a clarification question during my time?
If you want to use your time that way, I'm not going to take issue with it. One of the things that we suggested, although it was the last minute, I understand, was that if you wanted to, we could do a Q&A with each other for clarification, 2 or 3 questions with a 2-minute limit on answers, and we can do that if you want to. But I threw that in at the last minute, and if you don't want to do that, that's fine too.
Yeah, okay. No, I understand. I think it's just we're doing a debate, so I mean, I don't think there's any. If we just do it during the debate, there's really no need to have this extra debate at the end.
Well, let's just see. One of the reasons we structure this is just because in the past we have found people just start yelling at each other and going over each other, and then it just.
This isn't Fox News, and what we're going to do, like I've said from the very beginning, everybody's going to get equal, uninterrupted time. And that may not be the perfect setting to get everything done the way everybody wants, but I think it's the one that results with the most change of idea.
Well, let's see how it goes, and who knows? Maybe it'll even turn into some kind of crazy friendship. Who knows? Want to get started? Are we ready to get started?
Sure thing.
All right. Obviously, you can all just see my timer, and I'm going to, if you're ready, I'm going to go ahead and start the timer. Go ahead and start talking, Paul.
Hi, everybody. If any of you read the comments to the announcement of this debate at AVFM, you might have read this comment from my opponent, and I quote, I brought up to Paul that the topic of the debate being my video is dumb. I urged him to make it about the broader issues, men's rights, feminism, etc., and he can use what I said in the video, obviously, to make his point. He refused. Aside from that being somewhat misleading, what Mr. Binder had to say in his video is precisely what needs to be debated in order for us to have a more focused and meaningful and broad discussion of men's rights and feminism. To be more specific, we need a platform that supports evidence-based vetting of social problems that affect both men and women, not sex and ideology-based lies, misrepresentations, specious allegations, attempts to shame, or the mockery and denial of real issues. That is what modern feminism currently brings to the table, eroding any chance of real debate, and the video in question by Matt was one of the more obvious and porous examples that I have seen of that recently, which is precisely why I asked him for this debate. Case in point, Elliot Rodger, an infamous name Matt wasted no time in throwing into the fray as he was talking about defining what MRAs are, claiming, and I quote, a scary MRA-type brainwashing that goes on. I should note that Matt's delivery after that went directly for an obvious cultural slur against Stefan Molyneux. But back to Elliot Rodger, which is the first of many concerns about just how irresponsible and counterproductive Binder and most ideologues are when making their case. Elliot Rodger's rambling manifesto was thoroughly examined. The terms men's rights or men's issues were nowhere to be found in it. No references to MRA websites, including mine, no known affiliation with any men's rights group, not even a subscription at the time of his rampage to any MRA YouTube channels. There is no evidence at all that Elliot Rodger even knew what an MRA was. He was, however, subbed to PUA Hate, known for its dissent from the PA community, which I have to point out that we are commonly conflated with by feminists. The only alleged connection between Elliot Rodger and the men's movement has been in the deceitful propaganda of feminist ideologues who have disgustingly used the blood of innocent victims of his violence to paint a picture of men's advocates as fomenting misogynistic mass murderers. Ironically, as it appears in the case of Rodger, we produce a misogynistic mass murderer who killed mostly men. Where does this leave us in any pursuit of understanding what this tragedy was really about? With people like Binder, feminists, who so obsessively driven to make political capital out of tragedy, mindlessly and without evidence, pointing fingers and laying blame, is it any wonder that we also see Binder in his utterly thoughtless rant playing factual hide-and-seek with a lot more than Elliot Rodger, demonstrating with certainty Binder is about an agenda and won't let rationality, integrity, or the truth getting in the way of pushing it. Matt, this is precisely the debate that you try to accuse me of refusing to engage. The next few minutes will demonstrate for everyone why the exact opposite is true. I yield my time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Elam. Matt, give me just 1 second. Ready when you are.
Sure. So, Paul, you're familiar with Elliot Rodger's manifesto, where he went on and on about basically his hatred towards women and how all these jerks and assholes basically that's what women chose over him. Am I correct here?
No.
No. You're not familiar with it. All right.
No, you're not correct.
It's not correct. That's
You're
not what his manifesto said?
That's part of his manifesto. The other part was that he absolutely hated men. He was a psychologically disturbed individual.
Okay.
Personalities. All right, go ahead.
He definitely was a psychologically disturbed individual, but he hated men because of women. That's why he hated men. And let me read a quote here. We were talking about Elliot Rodger, so let me read a quote. I don't know how to make the world a better place without holding women accountable for choosing assholes. If women chose nice guys, we would have a peaceful world. That doesn't sound like a men's rights activist to you?
Is this a real question? You're really asking me whether somebody you're isolating one statement made by a psychopath that virtually anybody in the world can make and attributing that to being a men's rights activist? Are you really serious?
Did you just say that quote sounds like it's coming from a psychopath?
What I said was that if that's his quote, it did come from a psychopath. But that, psychopaths also go in the store and ask for a carton of ice cream. That doesn't make everybody that buys ice cream psychopaths. You're being absolutely ridiculous.
Okay, I'm being ridiculous. That's fine. But you don't think that sounds at all like a men's rights activist? Just yes or no? That you could just.
Absolutely not. I mean, you're asking a moot question.
I just want to point out that the quote I read is a quote from Stefan Molyneux.
Okay.
I'm just pointing that out. He's a men's rights activist.
Gotcha moment. Was that where you really think you got me with something there, Matt? Oh, buddy, I hope you brought more than that.
Oh, man. You mentioned just a couple minutes ago that I correlated Stefan Molyneux with Elliot Rodger, yet right now you can't even tell the difference between the two of them. You thought that was an Elliot Rodger quote.
If they both wrote, I went to the store to buy ice cream, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the two other. This is absolutely juvenile.
But
It's
they didn't. They didn't. But they didn't both write about going to the store for ice cream. One wrote, I don't know how to make the world a better place without holding women accountable for choosing assholes. That's Stefan Malneau. And the other one said, women must be punished for their crimes of rejecting such a magnificent gentleman as myself. A nice guy.
And you think those are similar statements?
I think one is definitely in the same ideology of the other. That's what I think.
Okay.
That's funny to you, because this led to
Your thinking is funny to me.
This led to the death of more men than women. So I don't know why this is funny.
Well, it's not funny because people died, which is exactly the idea you're trying to create here, and I'm not going to let that pass. But you're conflating these people and words and playing semantic quicksand with me in order to make a point. Nobody's buying it, and you're wasting.
All I'm saying, let me just finish. I have 14 seconds here. I know I have an extra 30. I don't think I'll need it all. But let me just point out that if you told me a quote from a men's rights activist and then told me a quote from someone who clearly has a hatred towards women, you couldn't tell the difference. I mean, so to me, they have an equal ideology, or at least a similar one. One certainly could have influenced the other. That's all I'm putting out there. And I'm fine. I'm completely fine. If I invite you to talk over my time, I'm completely fine with that. Equal time, I'm choosing my time wisely. I hope you choose your time wisely too. Go ahead.
Hit your 30 seconds. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay, thank you very much. Matt has a lot to say about the women-hating group of men that make up the men's rights movement. And to his credit, he does acknowledge that there are women there, even as he mocks and ridicules them personally. But one of the many gaps in his diatribe is questioning who these women are and where they come from and why they are actually here. These are relevant questions that need to be addressed. Since feminists won't do it, and I argue can't do it, I'll take the opportunity to do that for them right now. Let us start with the claims of misogyny and the insistence that we are against women's rights. I invite everyone to consider this list of women who have either published on the site and or endorsed us, or who are active team members in our operations, or who spoke at the International Conference on Men's Issues. Keep in mind, this is only a partial list. Aaron Pitsey, Allison Tiemann, Janet Bloomfield, Dr. Tara Palmatier, Dr. Helen Smith, Suzanne Vinker, Karen Strawn, Dr. Janice Fiamingo, Senator Ann Cools, Suzanne McCarley, Barbara Kay, Diana Thompson, and Hannah Wallen. I invite everyone watching this to use Google to take a look at the work of these women. See their writing, assess what you find in their personalities and perspectives, and please ask yourself a few questions. Do any of these women appear to be anything but intelligent, accomplished, fully autonomous women? Do any of them appear obsequious or deferential to men? Do any of them appear willing to do anything but vigorously resist a rollback in their rights, or for limiting their life choices or liberty for themselves or other women? Are they not indeed, each and every one of them, precisely what feminism promised women would be free to become? I will inform you that among these women are those who actually started the battered women's shelter movement for the world, both in the UK and Canada, and before America started similar efforts. One of them is the first black female to ever be a senator in North America. Now, does it stand to reason to you that this group of socially active, outspoken, and independent women would join the ranks with men who hate them? Are the women who actually started the battered women's shelter movement now scheming to further violence against women everywhere? Or are they so stupid that they can be hoodwinked by a gaggle of bitter, miserable, white cis male failures pining for their privilege? I would submit to you that the evidence proves that the only way you can come to that conclusion, that these women are supporting misogynists, is behind the force of chosen aggressive ignorance that can only come with orthodoxy and ideological dogma. Mr. Bender, it is either that or blind stupidity. And with that comes hopefully enough a lesson, if not for you, then for others. Criticism of feminism is not criticism of women. Criticism of women is not misogyny, nor is criticism of men misandry. Ideologies like feminism, capitalism, socialism, libertarianism, conservative, and the like Demand to be criticized and dissented from by those who choose to in a free society. Any idea that will not tolerate scrutiny is almost certainly an idea that will not survive it. The public attacking of those who dissent from any of these ideas and undue pressure to conform or agree using public demonization and false propaganda, as you did in your video, brings us to another ideology, Mr. Binder, fascism. And where it takes concern, and where it concerns fascist enforcement of thought and compliance with ideology, no one in modern culture takes the cake on that more than feminists right now. Conscious of it or not, Mr. Binder, your video was a disgusting example of fascism in action. And right now, we are putting that fact on public record. Thank you.
All right. Matt, go right ahead.
Sure. I like how he has prepared speeches. I enjoy that. Let me just point out that I can give you a list of men who go to feminist conferences, who speak out for feminism. I don't understand what the point is of listing women who are part of the men's rights movement. I mean, if you ask me after recent events, I might need proof that I might need to ask for proof that these women aren't just Stéphane Molyneux impersonating them. But I'll rest there on that one. But anyway, what I'm saying is that I don't really. I mean, you're accusing me of fascism because of my video, my video where I said that I did not approve of the men's rights movement. And let me pull some of these quotes from these women who went to the men's rights conference and spoke out. I mean, to tell you the truth, if I was getting paid, male or female, I would probably go speak anywhere if there's money to be made. But let me go here with the what was said at the men's rights conference, and here we go. At the beginning of the I'm not sure if this is the beginning. Let me rephrase that. A speaker named Fred Jones mentioned his fears about his son being raped after being arrested in New Orleans. He's kind of small and kind of cute, good looking, you know what I mean? You know what they do with, and then he cut himself off and the audience laughed. Barbara Kay, who is one of the women you brought up. The vast majority of female students allegedly raped on campus are actually voicing buyer's remorse from alcohol-fueled promiscuous behavior involving murky lines of consent on both sides. It's true, it's their get out of jail free card, you know, like Monopoly. And everybody laughed. And then you, this is not from the conference, but you yourself, Paul, on record is saying, joking about raping a male feminist. Hopefully before we are done, MRAs of differing views will find more common ground and PZ Myers will be limping to the drugstore for some KY jelly. Warren Farrell came out and said, if a man ignoring a woman's verbal no is committing date rape, then a woman who says no with her verbal language, but yes with her body language, is committing date fraud. I mean, these are jokes, some of them at the conference, some of these by the woman you mentioned, and you claim that I am saying passing propaganda in my videos, and you could claim that if you would like. I am no. It's your free right to say that. But the point I'm making is, if these issues are so important to you, then why are you joking about them? I think men getting raped is a very serious issue. I don't want to see men getting raped. I don't make rape jokes. You can find whatever you'd like to find on me. You will find not one rape joke coming out of my mouth. You will not find one rape joke from any person I support in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I don't know what else to say, but if you want to take issues seriously, don't joke about them. I take rape of men and women extremely seriously, and I would never joke about them to prove my point. If pointing out that sort of language is fascism, then I guess I'm a fascist, Paul. I yield my time.
Okay, no problem. Hang on a quick second. Go ahead, Paul.
And you would guess correctly, but of course for all the wrong reasons. Fascism isn't about your objection to male rape, and we're going to get to that. And by the way, just to let you know for sure, I did prepare part of my statements today. There were some certain things I wanted to get out, and there's certain things I wanted to just talk about like I'm doing now.
Okay.
One of the things you brought up was Fred Jones speaking about his son and your characterization of what transpired in that, and apparently you hadn't watched it, or even if you had, you didn't understand it fully. Keep in mind first that Fred Jones, a father who raised his children on his own, was talking about his son. If anyone thought that Fred Jones seriously, or that anyone in that audience seriously thought the potential for his son being raped was funny, then I'm going to say I think that had to go through a pretty twisted mind to get there. All I saw happening there, and I was in the second row while he gave that speech, was some people, yes, laughing a little bit at the discomfort that was in the room in discussing this story. That doesn't make people evil. It doesn't make them pro-rape, and it makes you absolutely ridiculously lack credibility to try to paint that picture out of that scenario. That's just, again, and that goes to a lot of other things. I'll bring up something else from your video that you're just being totally disingenuous. You brought up my Bash a Violent Bitch month, and you said, and I think I'm pretty sure to quoting you verbatim here, that I came out later and said that it was satire. No, Mr. Bender, I said it was satire in the article when I wrote it. I said at the very beginning in that article, which you also did not mention, was in response to an article at Jezebel.com in which the editors and writers there were absolutely glorifying intimate partner violence where they were beating up their boyfriends. That article is still up there for people to see. And so what you've done here, when you could have been going after real people glorifying intimate partner violence, which you can still find on Jezebel.com, you took somebody writing satire about it and you tried to make it look like I was promoting violence and promoting actual violence against women with that article. You're a liar for doing that. You're an absolute disgraceful liar, and there's no other two ways about it. Something else you said in your video, you alleged laughingly that AVFM claimed that there were death threats and why we had to move the venue. No, we didn't claim any such thing. The Hilton did. There's a link in the low bar to the original letter from Hilton making extra demands on us for money and security because of the death threats they had received. And of course, you're aware of that too. Here's the problem with all this, Mr. Bender, and it's one that it seems like feminist ideologues never can get. There is probably some common ground and concerns about issues like rape and intimate partner violence, and there are people, I think, on both sides of the fence that have genuine concern for addressing these issues and doing something about them. But if we don't get past this base juvenile demonization of people for not following in your camp, and the misleading of people like you did with the article I wrote, and the misleading people like you did regarding the death threats from Hilton, and misleading people like you have from what happened with Fred Jones. And one lie, absolutely, the whole Elliot Rodgers thing, 30 seconds please. The whole Elliot Rodgers thing is you painting the blood of innocent victims on people and trying to plug them into a group like mine who find what he did absolutely disgusting and repugnant and would also like to look into men's mental health issues for ways that we can prevent this. But we're not going to get there by saying that Elliot Rodgers is a result of feminism and that he's killing people because of what feminist ideologues do. We want to look at actual real problems and find real evidence-based solutions, but getting past ideologues like you is not done.
Okay. Now, unless I've lost count, this is the final 4 minutes, or do we have 2 more to go?
I think there's another one after this.
Okay, 4 minutes. Go right ahead, sir. Ah, cool timer. It's a good program, but go ahead, Matt.
All right. Well, there's a lot to unpack there. I don't see how quoting you makes me a liar. I mean, if it was satire, then you surely failed at satire, my friend. Maybe you should take some comedy classes, Paul. But I'm not so sure that you want to talk about the real issues, to be honest with you, because I Let me put it this way to all the men's rights activists who are watching this. I think you have some legitimate issues. There are some legitimate issues. You frame them as men's rights issues, but they really aren't. They're not men's rights issues. A lot of them are feminist in nature, actually. And these when I come out and I say I'm mocking men's rights activists and the men's rights movement, that's exactly what I'm doing. I think your movement is a joke. I think it has failed you. Let's take this for example. Paul says he wants to talk about the real issues. I want to talk about the real issues. There's a practice that's gone on across the nation. It is very prevalent in NYC that specifically targeted people for just walking down the street. And this practice focused on men. In 55% of the cases, the suspect was black, and in 10% of the cases, the suspect was white. Young white men made up 3.8% of stops. Young Latino men made up 6% of stops. A whopping 25.6% of young black men made up stops. If you're not following what I'm talking about stop and frisk. Between January of 2002 and June of 2012, about 4.4 million people were stopped in the streets of NYC alone, not counting where this has gone on in other major cities across the nation. New Yorkers were stopped by police 532,911 times. 168,126 of those stops were young black men. That was more than the population of black men in New York City, which means people were getting stopped more than once, which means tourists were getting stopped too. 90% of these people were found to be totally innocent. I looked on the Voice for Men website. I looked on many different men's rights websites for research. I saw no official statement whatsoever from anybody talking about this practice that is targeting hundreds of thousands of males. Nothing, not quietness. However, I do see the ACLU and their New York division going after this nonstop. If you look up men's rights and the ACLU, the men's rights activists online attack the ACLU for being feminist, for working on women's issues along with a myriad of other issues too. I don't see the ACLU saying this is a men issue, primarily a men's issue, we're going to stay out of this. No, because they fight for everyone because they are feminist. They are in charge, or leading the way at the very least, if you don't believe they're helping lead the way, and changing this practice to the point where there's only been about less than 100,000 frisks, period, this year, as opposed to just 532,911 just the previous years. If this was a men's rights issue, it's predominantly affecting men. I'll take an extra 30 here just in case I need it. Then why aren't men's rights a voice for men? He is your voice. Why don't I hear him talking about this? This is an issue that tramples your rights. Even if you don't live in a major city, what if you went and visited a major urban city and you got stopped and frisked and thrown in jail because they found maybe they found some personal drug paraphernalia on you, something that you weren't publicly showing. They shouldn't have even had a reason to search you. I see nothing but silence from the men's rights activism world.
You're seeing silence because you're not looking far enough. One of the reasons that we have such a diverse array of people in the men's rights movement, including that were on the panel that you seem to have failed to notice unless they were making a mistake, at least in your eyes, is that we have often, and there are regular references, for instance, if you go to our facts page, you will see references to the fact that these issues, particularly when we're looking at primary aggressor laws, when we're looking at mandatory arrest laws, laws like CAWA, end up disproportionately affecting minority communities the same way that the godforsaken war on drugs does, that it results and a lot more minority men in prison that don't belong there. And we have addressed this long and hard, and we've acknowledged this long and hard, which is part of why we have such a diverse community. We are not the group of white guys that you would love to portray us as. But let me give you some advice on this. One, learn about a voice for men before you make statements like that, because you don't know what you're talking about in terms of the make up our community, the issues that we address, the foundations. One of the people that got several $1,000s from us during the course of the conference was Calvin Mann's Better Fathers organization, that really works hard in a disaffected community, primarily black community, mentoring young boys to help keep them out of prison. Those are the type of people that benefit from our work. So really, you should just slow down and learn a little something before you start talking. Laughing and mocking when men who have been driven near suicide after family court abuses articulated their experiences as a revelation that the rest of the world was hostile to men. That was something that you mocked. Continued mocking of issues like male genital mutilation, in particular false rape allegations, to which you responded with, hey, I can't rape anyone without getting a false rape allegation. Absolutely disgusting. False allegations don't have anything to do with rape. They have to do with civil rights, and those happen to minority men too. So get over it. The implication here, of course, is that if a man is accused of rape, he's automatically guilty. No need for due process of law, for civil rights, or for the presumption of innocence. In fact, Binder has more than tacitly implied, if you express concern about the problem of false allegations, that alone makes you a rapist. Binder takes it even further, sneering at men who might seek professional services for emotional trauma. When he and his off-camera sidekick laughing at the idea and calling those men weak. If your idea of feminism is for both men and women to be free of often destructive result of gender roles, then neither of these men sound very feminist. At that moment, they both sounded like traditionalist hacks who just want men to shut up about their pain and take it, even in the face of an egregious disparity of the rate of suicide between men and women. But the fact is that this is precisely what feminism looks like. It seeks and approves only of men who put women first, stuff their pain, and take it, mocking and ridiculing the masculinity of any man who fails to comply. The end of gender roles? My ass. This is Gender Roles 101. Man up and give women whatever they want at the moment, and do not allow logic, appropriateness, self-respect, or even human decency to get in the way. This, folks, is the face of feminism. It is what we have seen from feminist icons for 50 years, and what we see now in the form of corrupt feminist academicians like Elizabeth Sheehy, Adele Mercier, Carol Gilligan, Germaine Greer, and others, all of them preaching elitism, hate, and depending on traditional male chivalry to protect them from the backlash they rightly generate. Perhaps the finest moment of Binder's feminist mentality was when describing men's perspectives on their interpersonal and legal problems with women with, quote, 9 out of 10 times they, meaning the men, were the douchebag. I have to ask Mr. Binder, and I do so rhetorically, so no need to answer, which ass did you pull that number out of? Which gender studies ideologue produced a study that provided and proved that bad relationships are defined by 9 out of 10 men being douchebags? And where does that...
Mr. Elam, you have run over your time by more than...
seconds, please.
You've already used up to 30 seconds, sir. I apologize, but you have used your time.
All right.
I guess I didn't warn you when you messed your first 30 seconds. You already got your additional 30 seconds. Mr. Binder gets the last word unless the two of you opt after this 4-minute segment.
Oh, wait, no, there's after this 4-minute segment, we each get 2-minute closing. That was what was agreed upon.
Right.
I apologize. You are absolutely right. Go ahead, man.
All right. Well, I was slightly wrong about the 9 and 10 stat because it's 85% of domestic violence victims are women. So I guess it's more like 8.5 out of 10 men are the ones who perpetrate this sort of thing. 1 in every 4 women will experience domestic violence in her lifetime. And 1 in 6 women, compared to 1 in 33 men, have experienced an attempted or completed rape. approximately 1/4 of all physical assaults, 1/5 of all rapes perpetuated against females by intimate partners are also reported to police. So, I mean, I'll correct the part that you said I lied about, but then I'll also get to the point where you were saying that you were just throwing out random examples of this one issue that happened to this one man, and you didn't get into really any specifics. But I mean, I could bring up many issues too that happen to women. Women commit suicide. Women go to jail. Women develop mental illness. I don't see why that issue is a men's issue. And on top of that, the fact of just pointing out random examples, it's the equivalent of the religious right's war on Christmas argument. Every year around Christmas time, they go on TV and they bring up one case here where a school in Wisconsin had to cancel their Christmas pageant simply because they ran out of funds, but they claim it's because there's a war on Christmas in this country. And then maybe they'll find one more case where a Christmas tree was taken down from some sort of area, I guess because they don't really feel like going into the details of it, but they'll automatically just claim it must be because there's a war on Christmas. There's not a war on Christmas. It's clear as day. So to throw out random examples that are very specific and claim there's a war on men or are the oppressed, it's the equivalent of the war on Christmas argument. And I'm sure everyone out there who isn't in this Christian right, who believes in this war on Christmas, and the men's rights activists out there who may be atheists or Muslim or Jewish, I'm sure you don't believe in the war on Christmas, so why would you believe in these specific random stories painting with a broad brush saying, look, then there's a men's rights oppression too? It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. And I'm glad that Paul said apparently there's something being done about imprisoning men. That should be your number one issue. I don't know why when I go to A Voice for Men, it's just all I see is attacking feminists attacking feminists for doing something. Let me give you an example. In July of last year on A Voice for Men, there is, and I'll take 30 seconds here, there's an article on hunger strikers in a California prison who were seeking better treatment. This was a male prison. There was an article on the Voice for Men website talking about this. I'm very happy they did. It got 5 comments with one saying, I'm going to go off topic here. And they went off topic. They didn't even talk about the issue in the story. 2 days later, there was a heartfelt story. Not written like the previous one where it was just telling the news. One that attacked who was involved. An article that attacked feminists seeking reform for a women's prison. That article received 5 times the comments, many paragraphs long, which I didn't see in the previous one, going off attacking women, attacking feminists. Why are men's rights activists attacking women who are seeking any sort of prison reform instead of focusing on these hunger strikers at this California prison? Why didn't men's rights activists pool their money together, show up outside that California prison, and take a stand? Why don't I ever see men's rights activists taking this stand in public? Why not protest in the streets for these men? Why not go outside that prison? I don't understand it. I actually want to ask Paul here, why is it that when I go to protest, when you see the anti-war protests, again, the majority of victims in war in terms of deaths, casualties who die overseas are men? You have that stat. I'm sure you're going to flaunt it. Why do I see feminist groups out there? Why do I see progressive groups out there? I don't see the men's rights activists on the street. Why aren't the men's rights activists on the street?
Now, I kind of blew it and let Paul run a little over, so I just sort of sloppily let you roll a little over too.
Okay, we're perfect then. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I hope Paul answers that question now.
Okay, now we got 2-minute closers, one each, and then we'll just see. Go ahead, Paul.
I've got 2 minutes for my closing, which is already written. If he wants to continue with questions after we're done, I'll be happy to answer that. I want to close by saying that I have no personal hard feelings against Matt Binder. He's just one of many, many young men who've been steered away from critical thought and into a mindset of bigotry and sexism, which he imagines makes him somehow different and superior to other bigots and sexists. He imagines whatever pain and suffering in his fellow human beings he dismisses, mocks, derides, trivializes, he does for the greater cause of women's empowerment, even when that empowerment crosses the line into privilege, superiority, and toxic elitism. He's been led to believe, quite falsely, that gender justice mandates the summary rejection of all men's problems in favor of a worldview that can only see men as the problem. His ideas are merely a symptom of a social sickness. He personally is not the cause of them. I think that in time he may learn. He is very young and very indoctrinated, but there may come a time in his life when he figures out that vetting dissent to your ideas with intellectual integrity actually strengthens those ideas. That day under current norms will also be a rough one for him, because the day he starts examining matters of gender and power with intellectual rigor will be the same day he finds out where his utility to former friends and allies ends. I can only hope by then he's matured enough to value his self-respect more than the things that are apparently driving his sense of worth at this time in his life. But as to the idea of debating the contents of your video being dumb, Matt, sorry, but you're dead wrong. The contents of your video are precisely what needs to be put on display and questioned. At some point, I hope you have better answers than you do here.
Is that your time? That's it.
Okay, Matt, you get the last few minutes. Go whenever you're ready, and then if we want to keep going. Whatever.
I'm gonna look at the camera here, and I'm gonna talk to the men's rights activists who are watching this debate. People like Paul and the men's rights movement, the voice in this movement, they have failed you. They have failed to bring up the issues that you claim to care most about. These issues, the main issues you should be fighting for, are the men whose lives are being thrown away in prisons. The men, our boys, who are being sent off to war by other men. Women are not running our Congress. A woman is not our commander-in-chief. Women, in fact, are saving lives. Because, listen, you blame feminists for things like workplace deaths because men are doing the hard jobs, apparently. Listen, what about all the men who died when they were coal mining back hundreds of years ago? All the factories 100 years ago, before women even had the right to vote, when women in some parts of this country were still viewed as chattel, the property of men. How was it that feminists was harming those men and causing their deaths? I think the men's rights movement has done men's issues, which are feminist issues, which are human issues, more harm than good. I don't see the men's rights movement out there agitating for the things they want. The most important things. Our boys are being sent off to war. Hundreds of thousands of men, hundreds of thousands of our sons, fathers, husbands have been sent off to war to die. And it's groups like Code Pink, who I see protesting out there, interrupting Obama, groups like progressive organizations who are out there, feminist groups who are doing the work. And I'll tell you, those protests worked to get us not involved in Syria. Those protests work to end war because, listen, if we're working together for issues that feminists agree with, because they are human issues, we get things done.
All right, you about done there?
I'm done. That was fun.
Did you two wish to continue discussing or having a question and answer session?
I think we're good. I mean, we could definitely do this again at some other time, but I don't think there's. I mean, we definitely we definitely threw questions at each other. I mean, quite plenty during
fine with whatever Mr. Bender wants to do. If he wants to take time to ask and answer questions, we can do that. If not, we can do it again sometime.
I'm good today. I think we got some good things done. I think we should end it here.
May I actually? Can I interrupt something?
Sure.
Matt, please do.
Not your opinion. Remember the agreement.
I just would like Matt to please send me the link to that particular story about New York. I would like to see it. I want to note for anybody who's listening, we are an all-volunteer organization, and we don't see every story. I'd like to see that story from Matt. Please do send it to me.
It's been a gigantic story for many years. I'm glad, if anything, men's rights activists will see that these are men's rights, that this is an issue.
Okay, please, Matt, please do me a favor.
All right.
editorialize. We cover a lot of stories. I'm just asking you to send me that. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the debate. Maybe we will do it again sometime.
All right. Take care.
Are we off?
Still says live for me.
Paul?
Yeah, I'm still having a problem with the button. Isn't that wonderful?
Just close the window.
I may have to do it that way.
Thank you, Matt.
All right. Take care.